First question.
Is this
Please briefly
recording?
give some background about yourself and your organization. That's the first question I'm going to ask.
That's right.
Okay? So basically, myself, so I have been in activism for more than 20 years. And I first started out in Sri Lanka, being a co-founder of the Women's Support Group, which was an Lbq organization. And then in 2004, that was in 1999. And then in 2004, I founded Equal Ground, which is a mixed LGBTIQ organization, basically an advocacy organization, working towards decriminalization in Sri Lanka. I've served on the board of ILGA, as you know, as co-secretary general for 2 terms, 2003 to 2008. And I'm currently the chair of the Commonwealth Equality Network and also co-founder of that as well. Then the second question, what was life like before COVID-19 and service availability for LBQ women in Sri Lanka? Well, that's the thing, yeah. LBQ women in Sri Lanka are very, very, what should I say, underground. Visibility is really, really difficult. And while we have tried very much to engage LBQ women and have them, come out a little bit more, it's very difficult to do that. So hence, when we can't identify people, it's really difficult to give them, services, so to speak. But we are not a service-oriented organization. We're an advocacy organization. We do have a counseling line, and we do offer trainings and stuff like that to the community. But we had a special LBQ scholarship, for example, for the last 5 years. We've been giving scholarships to LBQ women who want to start a business or who want to further their studies and go into some kind of vocational training or whatever like that. We have a counseling line only for women. So these are the 2 things that we have really been doing for the last few years, because the rest of it, as you know, in Sri Lanka, we are the only one of the few countries that criminalizes same-sex relationships amongst women as well. Yeah, and it's very unique. We are probably one of like maybe 4 or 5 countries that do that. But yeah, it does, put an enormous stress on the women here as well. A few years back, we actually produced a report on violence against LBQ women. It was called hate crimes as well as domestic violence and various things like that. So we have done some research projects and stuff like that involving them. And yeah, we try to 21st of September is Lesbian Visibility Day here in Sri Lanka. So we normally have an event of some sort, like a movie night or a dinner or something where people can gather. But of course, we are not doing those things at the moment because we have to be very choosy about what exactly we can do under the whole COVID situation and we can't do. So with the effect of COVID-19 outbreak and how we responded to this, to be quite honest, the first 3 months we were in lockdown. So we couldn't really respond to anything really other than just being there. We have counseling online as well as on the phone. And we just basically we were treading water until we could figure out exactly what we could do, because nobody was allowed to leave their homes. So it was quite difficult. The services needed for LBQ women during lockdown, it's a very difficult thing to basically talk about because it was difficult to find out what was going on with LBQ women during lockdown. Now, I do know that in some places, the violence against women spiked during lockdown, yeah? Particularly in the Central Hills and other parts of the country where there's a lot of alcohol abuse as well. So there's a huge spike in beatings, burning of women, breaking of bones, hospitalizing women, because they have been beaten. A lot of it is domestic violence by husbands and various people. Now, we can't quite ascertain which of these maybe targeted on a lesbian or bisexual woman, because it's very difficult for us to ascertain the numbers. If we even when we were with the women's support group, which is wholly focused on lesbian and bisexual women and transgender men and queer women of all sorts, it was very difficult to have them gather, and it was very difficult to make them open up and talk about the issues that they face. Yeah. So in Sri Lanka, lesbians are the most invisible community within the LGBTIQ community, and the most marginalized. So as try as we might, we're all small organizations. Even Equal Ground is a small organization, and there's only so much we can do. And so, yeah, it gets to be very difficult to address these issues. When you're asking what were the issues that LBQ women experienced during this time, what were the gaps in terms of addressing the issues? Well, there's still the invisibility is the biggest gap, I think, because it's very hard to address an issue that you can't see or you can't articulate. Some LBQ women are doing okay, others are not. And I can't speak for the rest of the country, because we can't even get to the rest of the country to talk to these LBQ women, because we don't know who they are. So it's taking a long time for us to actually, put together even groups that include LBQ women, because of the barriers that we have in reaching them. So it's been difficult. How have your staff and volunteers working for NGOs been coping? Well, right throughout lockdown, we were able to still keep our staff going with their salaries and stuff like that. A couple of them have had mental health issues, which we're dealing with. But otherwise, we've been able to, handle the situation, and, we've just been coping. And now we're in full-blown, work mode, because we are at the office. We are coming to work every day, every working day. And we are doing programs, in the north and the east and the south. And, we're trying to, do this as business as usual, and hope also that LBQ women in those areas are being reached by our coordinators in those areas. So we've had pretty good luck during, in some regions in the south, for example. We're going up north, so for the first time, because that's the first time after the war that we had the opportunity to maybe go up north. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I'm not sure, how everybody's coping up there. How have you been able to seek resources to fill in the gap? Well, we haven't actually been able to seek resources and provide support during the pandemic, because we've not had funding to actually. I know that some groups were like gathering food items and stuff to give out during the pandemic, but we were not able to do that because we also had funding issues as far as that was concerned. And to be quite honest, since others were doing that, we didn't want to duplicate all of that, because we have so much other work also that we need to be doing for our on our project portfolio. So the kinds of support that we have been giving is actually psychosocial support, which is counseling, both online and as well as on the phone. And that is the one thing that has been consistent right throughout the pandemic. How has COVID-19 outbreak changed the way that your organization and other NGOs will be working in the future? That I guess is a very tough one, seriously, because this is so new to all of us. It's like, okay, seriously, what are we going to do? Yeah. I'm trying to make it as business as usual, but I know it's not going to be. But the other aspect of it all is also, since we have a new government in place, whether that's going to be an impediment in doing our work, we don't know as yet. Already there are signs that maybe that might be happening. but we don't know. They might surprise us and say, okay, fine, we're going to decriminalize homosexuality, and everything's going to be just fine. And I'm hoping that the latter is what happens, but you can never tell. So it's very difficult to answer that question, as to how are we going to be like really, really changed in the future. It all depends on how long this is going to go for, no, and whether there's going to be a vaccine, and whether we can move about in the future as we normally do. That's a big question mark, I think, all over the world. So, of course, not in the United States. They're doing their thing, and the COVID outbreaks are rising by the minute. So, yeah, try not to vote for Trump, you guys. The seventh question: how has COVID-19 outbreak changed the way that your organization and other? Well, we covered that, right? Knock knock, midnight.
Yep, you've covered that already. Yep. So number 8.
Yeah. Okay. You're still awake, right? Because I'm going off of your picture in order to get to the questions. So you might be snoozing. I don't even know. Okay. So moving forward, what do you think must be adjusted, we think, in LGBTIQ work post-COVID? I think more than ever that we all must work together. It's too easy for some organizations and some individuals within the LGBTIQ community to always criticize what others do, and try to jostle for this imaginary first place prize that they are hoping to get by being the savior of the LGBTIQ community. I just think that that is just giving rise to division within the community, and COVID-19 has proved that none of all of that matters. What matters is that we are alive and well, and that we can work together for a brighter and more common future that involves all of us working as one to change the laws, to put things in place for the LGBTIQ community to be accepted and part of the citizenship of this country. I think that's really very, very important. So even the larger heterosexual community needs to realize that we need to work together to take Sri Lanka forward, because this has been a huge learning experience, I think, for everybody. And more than anything else, because the economy is suffering so much for everybody, I think that really it would be so stupid to continue to marginalize, up to 20% of the citizenship of Sri Lanka just because of their sexual orientation or gender identity or expression. You're just sort of cutting your nose to spite your face by doing that. So let's see whether the larger community and the government will also agree with me on that. I hope they do. How have you been able to cope as a leader of the organization during this time? Oh well, Scotch. No, I'm just kidding. It's you can take that out of the interview, okay? No, I mean, as I said, I've actually been quite glad that I've had to stay back home, and now I'm concentrating more on what needs to be done here in Sri Lanka. I'm trying to divest myself from my international commitments, but that's a long process. But as a leader, I have felt that we need to equip the LGBTIQ community more on how to do things, and how to do things properly, rather than taking shortcuts and trying to get from A to B or to A to D, bypassing B, C, and whatever. It doesn't work like that, and I think that it's been a huge responsibility for me during lockdown, in particular, to make sure that my staff was okay, that they were had at least income coming in so that they could purchase food and other essential items. It was a challenge, but it's something that as a person who is fairly connected in this city to do, I just called on my friends and said, do it. Yeah, that's it. If you're my friend, you do it. So yeah, that's what friends are for. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not going to dwell on too much of that, but obviously I have my own demons and shortcomings to deal with, but that was something that everyone goes through, and I think I'm in a much more privileged position than a lot of people. So I can't hark on my misfortunes or my shortcomings, because they're hardly worth talking about. What would you like to say to donors? Well, my donors, our donors, have been really, really flexible and really, good at, giving us leeway as to, extension of project time, diversion of funds and various things like that. So what I have to say to them is thank you, but keep doing it, and make sure that there is more funding available for organizations such as ours, as well as others, particularly in South Asia and Asia. I find that donors tend to, bypass us Asians and go directly to Africa, the Pacific, and the Caribbean. So maybe donors should also think that, things are happening elsewhere as well, like in our region, which really need to, be addressed and addressed properly with funding and not just funding, but trainings, and be flexible in their funding, so that if things like this happen, they can extend the time that we have to finish and complete our things, and have time off to take care of our families, things like that. I think it's really, really very important. And I think I've come to the end of that. The only other thing I want to say is great hat, Midnight. Print that.
Oh, thanks so much, Rosanna. Okay, I think you did really well. I'm gonna stop the video.
Okay.
I think that's stopping now. Oh no, sorry.
Well, you stopped yourself.
Sorry.
This sexy photograph of you in, I don't know
Oh
where.
gosh.
But
Okay. Oh, yeah.